Obviously, we have to exploit our own capacities. And Dr. Salami, it was fantastic. He is so committed, and economically, I think he's already a professor. We need him, and he's so committed and patriotic.
You don't have any favorite for 2023 in your party?
No, I wouldn't, because he may be eliminated if I mention. I better keep it secret.
All right, the last phrase, Mr. President, is your legacy.
Well, I think my legacy is that I try to make sure that we conducted ourselves with integrity. We stopped all the stealings as much as the system can allow. And for Nigeria, that is very, very important. The expectation from Nigeria, with a young population, the expectation is so high that we must make sure that the resources are managed properly and that they understand resources are being managed properly. If they rebel, there will be trouble. A lot of trouble.
And then it was a wrap.
Your Excellency, President Muhammad Buhari, many thanks for giving us this opportunity to speak with you. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you for finishing me.
Mr. President, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much.
The National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria mourns the passing of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, former President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, who died 13th July 2025 in London, United Kingdom. In honor of his legacy and service to the nation, I am directed by the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives to inform members of the National Assembly and the general public that all legislative activities are suspended immediately until Tuesday, 22nd July 2025. All members of the National Assembly are urged to reschedule their engagements to enable full participation in the burial activities of the late President. On behalf of the members and staff of the National Assembly, the leadership of both chambers extend heartfelt condolences to the government and people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the government and people of Katsina State, his wife, children, and entire Buhari family. President Muhammadu Buhari will be remembered for his commitment to Nigeria's unity and his integrity. May Almighty Allah grant his soul eternal rest. Signed, Kamaru Ogunlana, Esquire, Clerk to the National Assembly.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on our continued coverage of the burial of the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, who was saying his final flight in this life and back home from the London clinic where he died on Sunday, and he's homeward now and on a final journey home before he now being interred at a burial in his hometown of Daura, where he was born. He was born in 1942, and in Daura, which is now Katsina State in Nigeria's northwest region. And we've seen President Bola Tinubu, who is the one who received him as promised by the federal government, that he will be receiving the body of the former president at the Katsina airport, where a military farewell parade and honor was given to him. And we are taking you now to some of the live pictures of the activities. Arrivals now, and at any moment from now, we will be seeing the arrival of the body, and then the final rites of passage will be conducted. So arrivals at the Daura, the hometown of the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, and some of the what we are hoping will happen in the next few minutes is the prayers, according to Islamic rites in these kind of situation, the prayers, and then the final committal to Mother Earth. And this is kind of situation that happens when the nation honors one of his own and one of the longest serving leaders in modern Nigerian political history. It's going to be the second after Olusegun Obasanjo, who had 3 shots at being the leader of Nigeria, 2 times as a politically elected or democratically elected president and military leader at different times. So these are the pictures coming through live right here on China's television, our continued coverage of the burial and the farewell to a former Nigerian president, Muhammadu Buhari.
Yes, indeed, Sean, we have been seeing the arrival of dignitaries arriving at the prayer ground. Part of whom we saw earlier was the Chief of Defense Staff, General Musa, alongside all the 7 military chiefs. You can see right there the ambulance conveying the body of the late president has arrived the prayer ground, and they're trying to make way, they're trying to clear a path for it to where the final prayers will be said. We're still trying to make out some of the people that we're seeing in the delegation, but you can see there is a crowd of dignitaries that have now arrived at that prayer ground. Earlier, we could tell you that Vice President Atiku Abubakar, whom candidate Buhari had run against in 2015, beg your pardon, 2019, arrived alongside Aminu Tambuwal as well as Nasir El-Rufai. You can see an interview about to be conducted with Nigeria's Minister of Information, Mr. Malagi Idris, right there. But we can't hear what he's saying yet, but we see lots of activities like this.
Maybe we should wait for him for a moment.
Okay,
let's perhaps see if we can hear what, because he's one of the delegation leading the federal government special committee for this burial.
If we can get much later, but that is an interview being conducted with Nigeria's Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Malagi Idris, who is a member of that delegation. But the pictures that you're seeing right there are the pictures of the funeral, of the burial ground, beg your pardon, of the prayer ground, where the final prayer rites will be conducted for the body of late President Muhammadu Buhari before it is finally interred in his home in Daura, Katsina State. But we now have and can authoritatively report that 1 hour 15-minute journey from the Katsina airport has now been completed, and the body of the late president has now arrived his hometown. The rites will start and the interment will be completed.
Sure. Very certainly, and a lot of expectations on this very moment. I don't think this is going to be for any political end or to any political benefit, because certainly any leader rarely do we have this kind of situation. Of course, we have a situation where we had someone who has governed this country for about 10 years at different times. It's now in just about 60 years of independence. So he's had a very big share of running the affairs of this country. That is not mean feat in any way. And so such a personality would be regarded a full weight and a full state honor to ensure that its final resting and final passage of right passage rather will be honored to him. So his hometown in Daura is agog and mournful as it may be, but somewhat in some other climates they would say it's a celebration of life, considering that you've lived a very long, fulfilling life, not only to service humanity, to your nation, and to himself and his family. It definitely puts the name Buhari on the global map as a Nigerian leader, and I'm not sure that anybody will question who a Buhari is, not only in Nigeria, but globally, because when you answer such a name, then easily we can be able to recollect or say to you, are you related to Muhammadu Buhari, a former Nigerian president? That is what is done not only for his family, but now anyone from Daura will be reckoned with as soon as you say you're from that village or from that hometown, because someone on the stature of Muhammad Buhari has emerged from that. If you are suddenly from Katsina, you will also be reckoned. Well, not only Muhammad Buhari has come from there, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua also emerged from there. And these are notable personalities in the history of our nation. So it is a momentous occasion for Nigeria. Either way you look at it, if you're mourning it as you should be, when this kind of personality leave this life, yes, it's sad. You don't want to lose them. But at 82, some people will say it's a celebration of life in every sense of it.
Indeed,
but then, yes, the nation mounts.
We're looking at more dignitaries arriving that prayer ground. What is not clear, one would imagine, though, that the president, it does appear that the president's motorcade now arrive in the prayer ground. So clearly he's going to be a part of the prayers being said. Initially, some people had thought that he was only going to be at the airport receiving the body, and after the military rites, perhaps he was going to leave. But from the pictures that we could see earlier, we could see a motorcade driving into the premises. All the other dignitaries that we had seen earlier had come in on foot. You could see their vehicles at the back somewhere, and then they had come in on foot to the prayer ground. But we can see a motorcade driving into that premises. So it does appear that that will be the motorcade of President Bola Tinubu, who will be on the ground for the prayer rites as well. We had been seeing earlier pictures showing the arrival of many more other dignitaries, from political leaders to traditional rulers. You can see very clearly their courtiers very prominent amongst the peoples that have been waiting to receive the body. But we know any moment now the prayers will start for the final funeral rites of President Muhammadu Buhari, and the interment happening in his home, in his personal home in Daura. But the pictures you can see right there. Prayers about to start any moment now. But we did see earlier, I wish you could see those pictures of the motorcade driving into the prayer ground.
Indeed, this might not take a long time. If you look at the usual manner in which Islamic rite, rites of passage in a burial ceremony of this manner, it doesn't take you a long time. And you see, you also saw from the arrival of the body to when the body was being presented to the president, and the military farewell was done and the parade, it took less than 30 minutes. And thereafter, the journey by road took place, and this is just around an hour and a half. I imagine that the prayers will be in few minutes before the final committer to Mother Earth. And so these are the expectations within the coming hours, gradually behind shadow, based on what we understand before now. But as we can see from the live pictures, things are imagined, and we're gradually moving to the very end of this burial ceremony, which the federal government says it is a state burial in all sense of it, and every weight of the federal government have been thrown at it. Every resource is gone. From our Vice President Atiku Abubakar,
He is being interred. It's usually still very solemn. On that patch, you see that, because we expect any moment from now that's where the prayers will be taking place. But I'm wondering, if the president had died in office, will the ceremonies be any different from what we're currently seeing?
Well, I guess that it's going to be comparable. I think the only difference here would be that if the president, if the president dies in office, there's a little bit of transition that is still taking place that will not create the opportunity for this kind of elaborate planning, except of course whoever is taking charge can take control very quickly, yeah, and then because of the nature of Islamic burials, there's not so much time that is available even to do a lot of things. I imagine that there are a lot of people who would love to be here, but are in distant places, and because of the nature of Islamic rites also, you don't see a lot of the celebrations, because they prioritize, look, the body has to go committed to mortal heart in 24 hours, I think maximum 48 if you have the control. So I think it would be comparable to your question if a president were to die in office, but we have seen at least one,
yes,
which is
another son of Katsina. Yeah, and I don't know, Sean, you said you were on the ground, you experienced the funeral rites of President Umaru Musa. What I remember was that I was in the studio.
I was actually in the studio in the coverage. Pre and afterwards, there were roles that I played covering that burial, but I was something like this covering the burial. And they were very, very graphic in my memory. Very graphic moments, Mark. I mean, it was one that you never expected as a journalist that kind of that situation will ever happen in your lifetime, covering such a sad moment when a president had to die in office. But this is totally different. This man served his term, and now he's successful in office. He's one, the coordinating and helping out with his burial. A close friend with him, man who helped his political career after failure of three times, and now having to get into getting elected on the fourth time trying. And in all of this, and I know that there was a time that I met you in Lagos with Professor Shibajo. And this was the moment before, a few times that you and Professor Shibajo had come to the studio for interviews and all of that. Shibajo is one person that also came into office with a lot of integrity. And the same with, so there are two men whose integrity are a little better than them. And in all of these moments, campaign, governance, and all whatnot, when the president was sick, when he was in office, he wasn't out to, coming as an acting president. And I imagine that they were with London when the president was sick. What was it like? The families, what was it like that? Because you were close with the prof then.
Yeah, well, so one of the things that I will remember very well about that is that, the acting president and was the vice president was in active communication with President Buhari, and I remember him saying to us that each time he calls him, the man says to him, "Hey, look, go and run the country, go and do stuff. What will you do if I were to be dead? You will have to take decisions." And say, "Look, it's your call. Go and get stuff done." A lot of the times, there was a kind of
so he had his backing.
Oh, I mean, for the most part, and I mean, based on what I know, clearly, he had his back. I mean, look, some of the most controversial decisions that they even had to take, when as acting president, he had to remove the Director General of the SSS after the invasion of the National Assembly. The president, based on what we know, had no problems, because it was clear what was happening. So for what we knew in the open, clearly they worked together. They were in constant touch. I remember when he had even the longer medical leave, that the acting president had to go to London. If you remember, he had to go to London, met him when he was recovering, and came back right away. And the guy kept telling him that public spirit, both of them shared all of those values. Patriotism. Yeah, very, very, but clearly, and I think the people who designed the combination, they knew what they were doing. People who thought that, okay, look, you needed an Oshibajo to work with Buhari.
I think that President VP Oshibajo's tribute was quite, even though it was very short, it was quite poignant, capturing the Excellency Aisha Buhari and also the son. But he says Nigeria has lost a true patriot, a man.
An example of what the Vice President might be referring to when he talk about this unwavering commitment to the public good. Most people don't know that after we took office in 2015, there was a little tussle in the government about the implementation of social investment program. I said, this tussle, people felt that, that was just for campaign, and then you couldn't do it. It was Oshibajo and Buhari that stood and said that this thing got to be done. We saw, there were people in the cabinet that said, look, we can't get this thing. This thing is not doable. But because Oshibajo pushed and the president believed in it, in another 2, 3, 4 years, the thing was winning acclaim locally and internationally. So that's an example of his unwavering, the president's unwavering, because there was quite a significant pushback from cabinet members who felt that we couldn't do this social investment thing, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't even bother. But the president ensured that he gave the support, and it happened.
Now, the implementation, I think the jury will be out on that.
Well, whatever happened from 2019 is a different ballgame.
Well, the jury is certainly be out. But, these are some of the remarkable things that those who work very closely with him can attest to. His sense of humor, the fact that he was a patriot through and through, his sense of integrity, discipline. These are things that Nigerians always yearn for. They want to see it in national life. And when they see it in an individual, it would seem that they support that one individual to want to be the leader, so to speak. But clearly, it would seem that the expectations, and sometimes the outcomes can be very wide apart. We're not a more disciplined nation because President Buhari was president for 8 years. Why do you think that somehow we missed the mark? Somehow, is it that we're able to put in the processes, or are we just hoping that the leader will set the tone? And that tone about punctuality, for instance, which even some of his cabinet members made reference to, was there. but we still haven't gotten it.
Well, I mean, generally, I think that it's just a reflection of where we are as a people. That's where I look at it. And I think, to a very reasonable extent, the people in leadership, have to take the bigger brunt, for wherever we are. But I think there's also an element of the fact that those leaders actually come out from among us as a people, so it has to be a shared responsibility between the leaders and the followers. The kinds of demands that we ought to make that we are not making, the kinds of things that we shouldn't tolerate that we tolerate. I have had instances where people say that, look, I mean, if you want to go on a clean slate, if you want to press the factor of integrity, the people will say that, no, it's your turn, do everything that you need to do, bring the cookies to this side of the country, bring the cookies to this section of the country, don't bother too much about, so we have this crisis, this moral crisis that we are dealing with as a people. And that explains, in my view, some of the things that we continue to battle with over and again. And it is becoming much of a cycle, of crisis. Hopefully we get a break, we keep trying.
Well, we're still training our eyes on Daura because we know that that prayer should be, underway any moment now. We've seen dignitaries throng the prayer ground in Daura, and we know that the body is on the ground in Daura, but we are still training our eyes there to know precisely when the prayer rites will start. And as soon as that happens, we certainly will be bringing you the visuals here on Channels Television. We have to thank you so much for staying with us. We're still very much here, and we're talking about the life and times of the man, the president, the leaders. She would also highlight the soldier, the general, Muhammadu Buhari, who lived from 1942 and finally said goodbye to Mother Earth on the 13th of July this year. Well,
certainly, the expectations now, of course, you see the President Bola Tinubu receiving the body there, as he said he would, but we do know that the Islamic burial rites, which is the funeral prayer, the Salat al-Janazah, was been trying to understand from those who are in the know. They say it's a collective supplication for the deceased, seeking forgiveness and mercy for them. It's a common prayer, I understand, an obligation performed in congregation, focusing on supplications for the deceased and for all Muslims. And the prayer involves specific recitations and du'as with the intention of seeking God's mercy and forgiveness for the departed soul. What we're perhaps going to immediately see is, of course, the funeral prayer, the burial, and the mourning period. So this is just to prepare the minds of everyone of what's to come in the coming hours or days, and of course in the moments that we are expecting live pictures of what is happening. We understand that the body has since arrived in Daura, and moment we were expecting whether or not the president has arrived in Daura. We saw motorcade arriving in Daura. We cannot confirm whether the president is in it, but we do know that the body has arrived, And the prayer, which is going to be a congregational, a common prayer for everyone, specifically for the deceased, for God to grant the deceased a mercy. And then I don't know whether this will happen. The burial rites, I understand, of course, the grave will be dug, and this would have happened. Mourners will lower the body into the grave, and for the prayers, we understand that sometimes we would see some kind of a washing of the body. I don't know whether that will happen or not, but basically, our understanding of what to expect. And so you can see some of the pictures right there. The motorcade arriving, immediate preparation of the body is supposed to be the very first one before the prayer starts. And whatever the preparation of the body means, and all of that before the prayer, the burial in essence, and the mourning period, which is usually between 3 days and above. Yeah, those are the expectations, isn't it?
Well, I think, it does appear that our correspondent, Larry Lassisi, is preparing to come on standby for us to give us an update of what it is. I can see. Larry, if you can hear us, where are we now? Because we know authoritatively that the body has now arrived in Daura. We had heard earlier a request by the Emir of Daura asking that there be a stopover. We understand that they were pretty close in life, that the body be, stopover at the palace of the Emir of Daura. Do we have a confirmation that that request was granted, if really it was made?
Yeah, we will get to hear Larry for a moment, but of course what we can see right now is the road leading into the prayer ground. Yeah, in the ingress and the egress. So on both sides, you can see the end part of the road, which will lead you to where the prayers will be conducted.
It does appear that road is it been cordoned off?
It will be cordoned off, I imagine. See soldiers on that end, and I imagine that members of the Guards Brigade will be on guard in that place, because whenever you see the president, you will see some of these folks, and it means something that the number one citizen and all the security apparatus is in place. But it's going to be heavily guarded. As much as this is going to be a Daura thing, a Katsina thing, a family thing, sometimes when the president is in a place, I remember there was interesting that the former president, had visited the home of one of Nigeria's eldest statesmen, and the oldest son had stepped out for a moment just before the president entered. The former president, I'm not talking about Buhari now, the son couldn't enter into the house onto the president, because the protocol is that as soon as the president enters, the door is shut. And in fact, covering the president, it really happened with vice presidents, but covering the president, as soon as the president enters, and as soon as the president gets on the podium, all doors cannot open. Yeah. So if you are in it or outside, you're sealed in or sealed out. And so the kind of security, and you don't want to play with the Guards Brigade. Those guys, and you see, the villa security guys, those guys don't take any jokes. They have their eyes on the goal.
Well, I can see Larry's been touching his ear for a while, so I believe that he can hear us. Larry, if you can hear us, can you bring us up to speed with what the current situation is on the ground? We see members of the NYS there. We know authoritatively that the body has arrived. The prayer is about to start, Larry.
Mark, I hope you can hear me. Everything is going really. The tension is high right now. So we've seen a couple of aircraft hovering around the area, and then it appears we've seen some of the what you call the first few vehicles that are normally in the convoy of the president, and they're making their way here. Some vehicles have stopped in front of the house, and it appears they're there for now, but like we said, it appears this is the convoy of the president with the body of the former president. And we've seen the service chiefs go in. We've seen the governors, boss with the governors going in. We've seen some former ministers, more dignitaries. I can bet that that place is filled right now, but we'll still have to make room for more because more dignitaries are yet to go in. And I'm sure you remember all the dignitaries you saw arriving there, from the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, who came with the former First Lady, Mrs. Aishatu Buhari, with the president, the vice president, the team that went to London to come back with the body. And I'm expecting that they will make their way in right now. And it is until they make their way there that the ceremony will kick off. Marpe.
Well, Larry, if you can hear us, I mean, we've heard you say you cannot confirm just yet whether the president has arrived, but clearly we can see, some motorcade. Do you know if the request, because we understand that the request was made earlier by the Emir of Daura for a stopover at his place. Do you know if that request, if you heard about it, do you know if it was granted?
I did not hear about that request. I know there was some discussions earlier whether or not that will take place. But I think with the time factor we have right now, with the time the aircraft from London landed, with the time it's taking to arrive here, with the ceremony still yet to be done. And as I explained earlier, my understanding is that the Emir of Katsina and the Emir of Gusau are here right now at the prayer ground. That's plus all the other dignitaries, serving ministers, former ministers, governors, service chiefs, 7 members of the executive, ministers, a busload of ministers made their way in right now. I believe this is where the prayers will take place, and then from there straight to the lane in state, the lane to rest. Malpe.
So now, Larry, I know you have a clearer view, a clearer understanding as the moments get closer to the final, the interment. From what you told us earlier, things I guess are clearer now. Bring us up to speed about the rites. From a few things that those who are familiar with Islamic burial rites of passage are telling us as to how the prayers will be, the manner in which the prayer conduct will look like. What more do we know now, Larry?
Okay, well, you were right. Just as you said, from what you've heard, that usually is how it happens. The ceremony is not much. It's not going to be much. My understanding is that the body of the former president will be laid in full glare of everybody. People will gather around. Prayers will be offered. Once prayers are offered, and I'm sure they will decide who will be most appropriate to take those prayers. I told you we have 2 emirs present here that will be decided. After that, my understanding is that the body will then be moved to the residence. The ceremony should not take too long, and my understanding is with the time factor, and I appreciate that a lot of the dignitaries that came in will want to make their way out of Katsina today. This ceremony will move as quickly as possible, and I'm emphasizing as possible, because where you have a situation where there are dignitaries, where there are people that are that may want to pay the respect, it will come to the point that you might have to give and take when it comes to the issue of time. But I'm expecting that they will work as quickly as possible to make that happen.
I know that a lot of people have since arrived. Some of them include Aliko Dangote, Nigeria's foremost industrialist, and governors of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Ogun State, Dapo Abiodun of Sokoto State, former governors, Atiku Abubakar. What is the arrangement looking like from what you see?
Okay, from what I see, the arrangement within the prayer ground, there's no setting for such recognitions. There's not going to be any roll call or recognition. It's going to be straightforward prayers. And my understanding is, rightly, they will give some level of maybe to give allowance for some recognized people to stand close, but it's not going to be such that you're going to have dignitaries called to see them coming in or see them who is here, who is not. It's not going to be such. And just as I explained earlier, because of the time factor, we may have things moving a little bit faster.
So can you confirm for us then that the presence of the person we're waiting for is that of the president?
I can't confirm right now. I do know his media team have landed. They're usually the head of the convoy there on ground, but they've quickly made their way into the prayer ground. My understanding is that they're close. They should be coming forward any minute. That's my understanding. I do know, just as I'm sure you saw on the camera, a couple of cars stopped by the residents. But what I think should happen, taking into consideration, just as I said earlier, the time factor, is that they may make their way forward to the prayer ground. And the security officers here have been trying their best to ensure that they keep things orderly, that there's a free flow of traffic. Only person they're making room for is the commander-in-chief, the entourage, the family, to make their way in. So we'll keep monitoring now. And I'm sure you see me looking over my shoulder. I'm trying not to be caught unaware that something is happening, and I haven't seen it. But as I said, they should be here.
I imagine, Larry, I imagine Larry, the Grand Qadi, the Chief Imam of Daura, of perhaps, some heavyweight religious Islamic leader will have to lead that prayer, considering the personality involved here. We're talking about the former president. Is it okay for you? Are you able to confirm for us those who might be participating? Is a common prayer, of course, just to build the expectations of our viewers tonight. This evening. It's getting to the night anyway, it's starting from the morning anyway. But so, do you have an understanding, as we do know, that the Emir of Daura will also be in the mix?
The Emir of Daura is here. The Emir of Gusau is here. To my understanding, and I stand to be corrected, they should be to a large extent the highest ranking among those here. But I think, just as you said, if the Grand Qadi is here, it depends on who is delegated to take that role. I don't have that information right now, and I'm very, very worried about leaving where I am right now. It's a few meters to where...
Don't leave, Larry. Don't leave.
I don't want to leave.
Describe
I
to
really
us,
don't want
Larry, for a lot of people who are not familiar with Daura, the home of the former president, and where the prayer is going to be held, just give us a vivid description, if you may, of the prayer ground and where the the burial pit is going to be, and some of those details. Can you do that for us in a moment?
Okay, I think I can do that fairly well. Now, the area, this is the GRA of Daura, and the president's residence is behind me. But by my right, the road that goes to my right here leads to where I'm told is a helipad, where the president usually, when he comes by chopper or the helicopter, he drops. So that is the ground that is being made or used as a makeshift prayer ground. It's basically an open arena where many people can gather and a lot of people can come in to pay their respect. As it is right now, my expectation is that that ground will be where they will use just to accommodate the number of dignitaries, the number of people that have come, and then they will move to the residence. The residence, I'm told, is a little bit is smaller, as you can imagine. So the whole point of getting everybody in will be problematic, and I think this is the easy way that has been the choice that has been made to give plenty of people the opportunity to pay their last respect. And I can tell you for free that if there are VIPs there, maybe they're like 20-30%. The majority of people there are people, ordinary citizens, people who have come to pay their respect, and they've been coming in. I'm told there are more outside that haven't been allowed in a bid to ensure that the space is not too crowded and all that. So from the prayer ground, we'll move to the residence, where I'm told will be just for a few people, and then would have that done.
Where is the body
as I'm speaking with you right now,
understand the body
the NSA is here. He's making his way in.
Or is it,
in the ambulance.
Is it still in the ambulance, or is it in the house, or waiting to be transported to the prayer ground?
Okay, I would like to call your attention to a large body of people making their way in, and I think I cite the vice president. Vice president is within that entourage. Within that body, I think I can see former President Yemi Oshibajo, and you can see them making their way. The president, beside the vice president, is the host governor, if I'm right. The speaker is also with there, and I have the governor of Borno State. It's a large body. They're making their way in. And behind them, you see the chief of staff. The chief of staff, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, is also making his way into the prayer ground. And dignitaries are arriving. Just before we saw the delegation of the vice president, we cited businessman Aliko Dangote making his way in. He was accompanied by another businessman, Tinubu. He also made his way in, and we had the national security advisor making their way in. So I think this is also, I'm sure, following protocol, so that they have arrived before the president comes in. Because usually at such occasions, most occasions, once the president arrives at a scene, the door is closed and nobody else is allowed in. So I think they've done some sort of order to allow the dignitaries, vice presidents, governors, more governors come in. And I think the next people we should see should be the Commander-in-Chief, President Bola Tinubu.
Larry, if you may, and perhaps if the cameraman can do us a favor and just move away from your side a bit and just zoom in towards the gate and the entrance, so we can vividly show our viewers what exactly the entrance and the personalities who are making their way in look like? Are we able to do that? And let's perhaps get some feel of what
I'm going to do right now,
Shehu, like at the moment.
Shehu, I think the moment we're waiting for is here. I can see an ambulance, an army ambulance making his way. I think my cameraman, if you can zoom in so that we'll try and get that. We have the ambulance with a very, very, very large concentration of military men, security officers, and the protocol that is being given is normally that is given for the excuse me, sir. Sorry, please, just a minute, just give me room. So you can see the protocol that is usually given for the president. We have security officers holding the body of the vehicle and moving in. And that, I'm told, is the body of the former president as he makes his way into the prayer ground. And you can see I told you before that they were trying to keep a lot of people back. But what we have now is a mass following that is going to accompany the president, accompany the body, accompany the ambulance into the prayer ground, and I just can't believe this. I just can't believe this.
All right. Larry,
and I think right now, we have the president. The president has arrived. The president has arrived. The president is making his way into the prayer ground.
How difficult this moment could be. If you want to take a moment, just take it.
The president's convoy, the president is moving in right now.
An entourage of governors in his convoy, so to speak. But now we're seeing this fleet of cars going into that prayer ground, ostensibly conveying the president right behind the ambulance, which we had seen earlier, conveying the body of the late president. So it does appear that at any moment now, the prayers, the final prayer rites, the Islamic rites will begin. Prayer said for the repose of the soul of the late president and subsequently the interment. But best efforts, it would seem, to control the crowd. But President Muhammadu Buhari, a man of the people in life, a man of the people also still, especially the people of Katsina, in death. And they will not be deprived, will they?
You can only try, Malwe. You can imagine this is, sometimes we call it organized chaos when you're covering an event like which you must be prepared for. And part of our training is don't get your cable locked in an organized chaos in coverage. Don't get your camera brought down. Don't let your cameras be destroyed. Or, you know, a lot of measures. But I can imagine the security guys too. This civil kind of congregation, you almost cannot do anything when it gets out of hand. And you see the sea of heads who have gathered there and just making sure that everyone has a feel, either in sight or in touch of the final moment, the body of this man who is not only a towering political figure, but also who had climbed to the very highest of his military career. as a soldier. And as I said earlier, a soldier, a symbol, and many, many things to so many people. Symbol because there are a lot of people who say Buharism has become an aphorism for a governance philosophy, a policy, because some people came about that. Buharists have now become the ardent followers and those who believe in the philosophy of Buhari. And so we've seen many, many years, more than almost 20 years of followership of Buhari as a political figure and several years of military service. And now that journey terminates today. It's 2 years of a life of service to the nation. Out of those 82 years, he spent about 10 years being the leader of this country. He served over 30 years in the Nigerian military. He served as a political party leader. He served as a leader of the nation. And of course, regionally and globally, he's played so many roles. He's got his final flight as a human into London, but been returned. And now a flight in body to Nigeria today, and a final journey home to his maker. And being committed to Mother Earth is what we're saying. The procession, the final burial rite in the Islamic way for President Muhammadu Buhari. Procedure in the Islamic way, and that prayer is going to be a communal prayer. And earlier on, we saw President Bola Tinubu alongside Vice President Kashim Shettima, President Umar Sissoko Mbayo of Guinea-Bissau, Prime Minister of Niger, Ali Lamin Zaini, former President of Niger, Isufu Mahamadou, and former Vice President Yemi Oshibajo, all receiving the casket carrying the body of the late President at the foot of the aircraft, as we saw at the Umaru Musi Yar'Adua International Airport, Katsina. A joint team of military pallbearers comprising 9 senior officers laid the casket draped with the Nigerian flag on a trolley. The team included Major General Muhammadu Usman, Major General Oluwafemi Williams, Major General Shuaib Bonu, Rear Admiral Suleiman Dawu, Rear Admiral Jonathan Ajodo, Rear Admiral Samuel Ingatua, Air Vice Marshal Adeni Herbert, Ameshinola, Air Vice Marshal Isani, and Air Vice Marshal Obina Obiawaka, and Major General Mike Alechen coordinated the team, and we saw in the slow march in sync with the hymn, God be with you, to meeting, passing through a full military guard of honor comprising 6 officers and 96 soldiers drawn from the Nigerian Armed Forces. President Bola Tinubu and others walked behind the casket trolley in the solemn procession. The pallbearers escorted the casket into a waiting military convoy for the 1-hour journey to Daura, the funeral prayers and the burial ceremony. Is what we see.
That's